Hi there, good afternoon, everybody. Let's see, where are we? Okay. All right, good afternoon. We'll go ahead and get started. And thank you for joining us today. My name is Stacy King, and I'm with the Maryland Department of Transportation and the Commuter Choice Maryland program. And I would like to welcome you to our October webinar, A Behavior Change Perspective on Trying a New Commute, with our fantastic presenter, David Straus, the Executive Director for the Association for Commuter Transportation. Sophie, next slide, please. Just before we get started and turn everything over to David, I wanted to let everybody know that the broadcast, the webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website at commuterchoicemaryland.com in the very near future. And if you have questions, please use the question or chat box, and we'll make sure to get to them at the end of the presentation. So before we get started, a little bit of an introduction on Commuter Choice Maryland. We're a program of the Maryland Department of Transportation, and we work in partnership with our local and regional jurisdictions to provide free employer support to develop commuter benefits programs. We also provide support to employees to help them identify their transportation and commuting options and help everybody take advantage of really great programs and incentives to help with the commute to work. Our services are free and highly customizable, and we work with businesses of any size, and are here to, with our local jurisdictions here to support all employers across Maryland. Okay, next slide. I would also like to just highlight one of our newer initiatives through Commuter Choice Maryland. The Employer Partner Program is a program that we've developed to recognize Maryland employers for their leadership in offering transportation benefits and creative commuter programs and incentives to their employees. The Maryland Employer Partner Program is free, and next slide will show you some of the benefits. When an employer becomes a partner with us, it unlocks many benefits, including a ton of free support through our office and in conjunction with our local jurisdictions. We work to help develop commuter programs and transportation options. And then once you have a program in place or expand it or are promoting it, we are here to celebrate that and elevate your organization and promote your successes. So you'll be featured on our website. We'll feature you in our newsletters and perhaps a future webinar to just help showcase all the great work that you're doing to help people with their commutes all across Maryland. Okay, next slide, please. Just a quick little snapshot. So the Employer Partner Program is highly customizable, and when an employer does join up, one of the first things that we do is either through our office or in partnership with the local jurisdiction, we work with the employer to gather data and do some analysis and give a really robust set of recommendations and try to come up with a transportation and commute plan that works and meets the needs of your organization. Next slide, please. These are just some of the organizations that are now Maryland Employer Partners. We work with employers of any size and across sectors. So you can see all of the employer partners that we currently have at commuterchoicemaryland.com. And next slide, please. And if anyone on the call today is interested in becoming an employer partner, it's easy, and I might have mentioned it's free, but please, first step is to go to mdot.maryland.gov/employer partner and fill out our quick registration form. It's only 10 questions. We can help you with it if you need, but those are the steps you take. And once you submit that registration, we start the conversation and we start to really dig in and figure out, how to make some great things happen and how to celebrate your successes. So I think that's it for us. Next slide. Okay, great, wonderful. So it's my really great pleasure to introduce David Straus, the Executive Director of the Association for Commuter Transportation. If anyone is unfamiliar with ACT, you're going to learn a lot about it, but I do recommend checking out the website. And as someone who has been in the transportation field for almost 10 years, ACT has been a really wonderful support, and definitely recommend that you check it out. So now I'm going to turn over to David Straus. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Stacy, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to join you today to talk about opportunities for TDM to shift commuter behavior, especially in our post-pandemic world. As Stacy mentioned, my name is David Straus, and I have the great pleasure of serving as the Executive Director for the Association for Commuter Transportation. I'm sure some on the call may not be as familiar with ACT, so I just wanted to take a quick moment to introduce us. The Association for Commuter Transportation is the premier organization for transportation demand management professionals. And our goal is to build a strong community of individuals and organizations working to advance and implement TDM within their communities and their work sites. Our 1,500 members represent city, state DOTs, major employers, universities, MPOs, transit agencies, transit service providers, and other stakeholders that are focused on creating a better journey for everyone. Next slide. We provide our membership with valuable professional development opportunities with dozens of virtual and in-person events every year, including our upcoming TDM Forum in Atlanta that's scheduled for November 15th to 16th, and you can learn more about that event on our website. As well as a new event that we're going to be holding this spring in Indianapolis on the important connection between transportation and climate change. So ACT supports career growth from the moment you as an individual are inspired to join the field through your retirement. We work to advance the entire TDM industry through advocacy and influence of federal, state, and local policies supportive of TDM. At this moment in time, we're actually looking to hopefully codify an updated definition of transportation demand management and transportation demand management strategies at the federal level, which would hopefully provide clearer and consistent guidance from federal highway down through the states and MPOs on what TDM is and how it can be funded. Next slide. So transportation demand management is a broad umbrella of strategies that aims to create the most efficient multimodal transportation system that moves all people with the goal of reducing congestion, improving air quality, and stimulating and supporting economic activity. The diversity of the strategies is what makes TDM so impactful. At its core, as many of you may know, TDM is all about providing real options for all people. While historically there's been a significant focus on the commute trip, the pandemic has made it clear that TDM programs must actively engage in developing solutions for all trips and all people, creating a transportation system that is both efficient and equitable. TDM is about reducing traffic congestion by shifting people's mode choice away from single occupancy vehicles, and that requires a significant investment in not just the programs and services, but the marketing of those services as well. Along with improving air quality through shifting our dependence on carbon-based fuels and connecting people to jobs and supporting economic activity. Next slide. So implementing TDM requires action and engagement from all levels of government and collaboration between the public and private sector to be successful. This is very important for us to keep in mind, as we simply can't expect people to make change in their behavior simply because we tell them to. We must create the systems and the services that support that decision and enable them to make that shift. At the federal level, transportation authorization sets the tone and provides the financial resources to implement TDM at the state and local level. And the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act provides billions of dollars in new programs supportive of TDM implementation. Commuter benefits established by Congress and overseen by the IRS are perhaps our most impactful tool to incentivize mode shift through the employer. And this actually just went through a significant increase from $280 to $300 a month. And in communities and regions like Washington, D.C., where public transit costs, may exceed that amount, this will go a long way to helping provide a tool to get people to make that shift. We're also seeing a renewed focus on the connection between transportation and climate action. And it's something that we as an organization will be focusing on, and as a part of our messaging out to our members, and hopefully continuing that messaging out to the broader public. At the state, local entities, they can develop the TDM plans that really set out the goals and provide the structure for near-term actions, along with those long-term projects that will provide the opportunities for people to make the shift in their mode. States and local entities can implement TDM policies like DC's transit benefit ordinance and the park and cash out programs that really push employers and individuals to think about their transportation options and the services that are available to them. NGOs like transportation management associations support their public agency partners on the implementation of TDM. They can aggregate the provision of services, coordinating local employers and efforts to achieve the goals within those local TDM plans and regulations. And then there's employers. And when committed, employers can really be the single greatest influencer of mode choice. They establish the corporate culture that can have a significant impact on how employees view transportation options, along with the adoption of the various mode uses that are there. We know how meaningful it can be when a CEO of a company gets out and uses public transit themselves while telling their employees and asking their employees to use it with them. Employers provide that menu of commuter benefits, including transit passes, shuttles, EV infrastructure, and are even now looking more at the provision of incentives to purchase electric vehicles and electric bicycles. Next slide. As TDM programs, we're in an interesting and challenging time. Commuting behavior as we knew it has gone through a generational shift not seen since the end of World War II, when millions of returning servicemen began moving from cities and farms to the suburbs and shifted to driving alone to jobs in the urban centers. The pandemic has really changed everything. In some cases, trends that were slowly growing over years were forced forward a decade in just days, like telecommuting, which prior to the pandemic averaged 5% of the office white-collar workforce. And then in a matter of weeks, we saw an instantaneous shift to telework. But then depending on who you ask, the total perception of how many people were working from home really varied greatly. If you asked a white-collar office worker that lived in the suburbs how many people were working from home, they probably would give you a number, well over 60, 70%, as all of their colleagues and friends were working from home as well. But in reality, we had just 35 to 40% of the workforce that was actually able to shift to working from home as essential workers within our communities that we rely on for the foundation of our economies. Still had to commute to work. They had to go to the hospitals, go to the stores, go to the fire department, and continue to make those trips. This means that if we are to retain just 50% of the people working from home, we'll still have 75 to 80% of the population continuing to commute to work. And we must do a better job in providing them with reliable, efficient, and affordable options that we can then push out and promote through the marketing strategies that we have. Next slide. So what will be key for TDM programs and employers during the months and years ahead is really this idea of flexibility and connecting real solutions to the needs and realities facing commuters. We've seen the success of remote work and the positive impacts it can have, not just on the bottom line of the companies, but in the quality of life of the employees. But as I know, it will be a minority of the workforce that is able to continue to telecommute. This flexibility and the need to better understand the realities and challenges facing commuters lends itself well to this idea of motivational interviewing, which has been growing in interest from TDM programs across the country as a more effective behavior change strategy. So motivational interviewing is a goal-oriented and participant-centered coaching approach, which was traditionally used by public health professionals to help people change hard-to-change behaviors, such as giving up smoking or exercising more. In the context of TDM programs, it can be used to help guide someone through the process of finding a transportation solution that works best for them. Now, I'm not an expert on motivational interviewing, but we thankfully have many within the organization, and hopefully folks can reach out to some of them after the event if they want to learn more. But at its core, motivational interviewing is about expressing empathy to the individual, hearing their story and understanding their needs. This will be needed more and more if we're to successfully broaden our reach beyond that traditional white-collar workforce, and really understand the needs of blue-collar workers, night shift workers, the individual situations that face, single-parent families, and really trying to develop those solutions to meet their needs by understanding the situations that they're facing. It's about establishing the discrepancy between the individual's goals and their current behavior while not getting into a disagreement or argument between that gap. As we, this is key with the empathy approach. It requires you to roll with the natural resistance that's there, acknowledging and exploring the individual's resistance to change rather than opposing it. And it's about supporting self-efficacy or the individual's belief in their capacity to act in the ways necessary to reach their goals. So that's kind of a quick overview of the motivational interviewing side. As I mentioned, there are several of our members within ACT that are starting to utilize this approach within their outreach efforts. I believe we actually had a workshop on it as well at our conference this summer, and we'll be continuing to explore ways of educating the membership about this strategy. Next slide. But with all the change that's taken place, we as an industry must also rethink our strategies and the target audiences as we move forward. We must develop a new understanding of commuter behavior, needs, concerns, and barriers to develop programs that best serve their workforce within their communities. And this is central to that first piece of motivational interviewing around empathy and understanding, the situation of each individual commuter. We must increase our focus on underserved communities within the workforce. During the pandemic, the lawyer may have been working from home, but many essential employees, from janitors, security guards to nursing assistants, grocery clerks, and cafeteria workers, were all still continuing to commute to work, and they need our help more than ever. Working within these communities has always been a challenge for TDM programs, but utilizing motivational interviewing can be a useful strategy to really connect with them on a deeper level. We should be looking at programs to promote biking and walking. While there's no federal benefit for biking, many employers do choose to provide a taxable benefit to employees choosing to bike to work, and even incentivize the purchase of an e-bike. Employees have proven that telecommuting is a viable option that does not negatively impact productivity and actually improves overall quality of life. Employers must figure out how to permanently integrate telecommuting into their culture, whether full-time or hybrid. It's policy decisions like these related to employee benefits that can have significant impacts on shifting behavior. Without commuter benefits, all the marketing in the world won't really lead to any lasting change. In addition, with potential shifts from public transit, ride sharing to driving alone, we're already seeing congestion return to our cities at pre-pandemic levels, and we should be using this opportunity to rethink our parking policies to ensure appropriate and efficient use of parking supply. We should be encouraging organizations to decouple their parking from their leases and shift away from monthly parking passes. Cities should be looking at long-term approaches as well, and by looking at adjusting their zoning requirements for parking and the possible elimination of parking minimums, which is something that we're seeing more and more cities across the country adopt in just the last few months. And then public transit, will continue to play an important role for millions of commuters who are dependent on transit for all of their transportation needs. And employers will need to work collaboratively with transit agencies to ensure service levels meet the needs of their workforce. We'll need to look at new programs that close the gap in transit service by offering first last mile connections via bus, bike, and pedestrian amenities. Employers and communities may need to advocate for the development of commuter services organizations or even the creation of transportation management associations that can aggregate the development of higher cost services that will benefit all of the users. And then lastly, but truly important, is collaboration. The collaboration and communication, often overlooked to our detriment. It's so important for there to be an open and regular communication between the various entities involved in transportation. The public and private sector need to be proactively updating each other on their plans for returning to work, the service adjustments, and their future needs. Without doing so, it doesn't matter what marketing strategies we use, if the systems in place won't support the needs of the public and your workforces. Next slide. So I want to thank everyone for taking a few minutes to listen, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that folks may have.
Great, thank you so much, David. That was really good overview, really good insights, and yes, just echoing, if anyone has questions, I don't see any in the chat yet. I wonder if we can, if anyone wants to just shout them out, we can take them off of mute. But I think, so perhaps to get some things started, we were curious to know if there's maybe an underutilized TDM strategy that that you think employers aren't taking advantage of, or maybe a trend that you're seeing, like something that's or something that employers should know a little bit more about from your perspective, or what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Parking management is a key one. It is an area where many employers had often approached parking as a given, as a part of their lease arrangements, as a part of their, their building out of their spaces, had to have X amount of parking, and that parking would be sold to employees at a monthly cost. What we are seeing now, especially with the return to a more hybrid work structure, is that monthly cost doesn't make sense anymore. One, it's requiring the employee to pay for parking for an entire month when they may only be coming in for 2 to 3 days a week. But by getting rid of that monthly pass and offering individuals the ability to, purchase a daily pass gets that individual to think about their choice they're making every day, and to perhaps look at opportunities to take, park one day on a day when they know they need to, run and pick the kids up from school or after school activities, but on other days be able to utilize public transit, and the ability to merge together both the parking benefit and the transit benefit enables that to happen for employers. And I think that's one area where a lot of employers don't often promote the fact that you can have both benefits and use both at the same time. So that's an area where if we can be educating employers more about how to more effectively utilize that qualified transportation fringe benefit to support employees that may need parking, but also utilize it to discourage the use of parking and driving alone in the long term is one area. And now with the increase in the transit benefit to $300 a month, it's really something for a lot of people to take advantage of.
Yep, that's great. And that does make a lot of sense. And for anyone who's maybe on the call, I think we have often tried in the past, the tri-transit programs. And if someone has to drive to a transit station and pay to park there, then sometimes the the benefit, if we're only providing the benefit for transit, then and the parking, the parking outweighs that cost and the extra time, and it's having those two go together and offering that flexibility is really important. Great, thank you. And then and you did discuss, you did touch on the qualified fringe transportation benefit for 2023, and I don't know if, just for another education point, if you can talk about the buckets that are covered by that benefit.
Yeah, so the qualified transportation fringe benefit, for those of you who may not know, allows you to provide the pre-tax sale or the subsidy of public transit and van pool fare media up to $300 a month. So an individual that may take the bus or the metro, if their fare is under $300 a month, and you as an organization decide to provide 100% subsidy up to that amount, essentially that your employees can receive free public transit use to get to and from work. But what's added to that is the fact that those passes can be used for all trips and really helps influence mode shift that goes beyond the work trip as well, by providing your employees with access to public transit whenever they want. Right now, biking is not biking and carpooling are not allowable uses for the transportation fringe benefit. It's something that ACT has been working on to advocate for within Congress, and we hope at some point in the years to come we may see an expansion of the commuter transportation or the qualified transportation fringe benefit to a broader commuter benefit. But right now it's just public transit and van pooling.
Great, thank you. And I would just like to give a little bit of a tack onto that the Maryland commuter tax credit has been expanded. It expanded on July 1st. So through the Maryland commuter tax credit, Maryland employers can receive 50% of their subsidy back for bicycling, walking, running, active transportation, some of these modes that aren't covered by the federal benefits. So so we're really excited that in Maryland, we have this extra layer that now the commuter tax credit has been expanded for basically all modes, telework, bicycling, scooter share memberships, walking, carpooling, even, just some of the, just basic, all the ones covered by the federal fringe benefit, but then a whole lot more. So we're really excited to be able to have that tool for employers as a as a way to expand, feel even more comfortable about expanding their commuter benefits. So thank you. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat, all the boxes. So I think we can wrap up or at our time. So thank you again, David. Thank you very much for joining us and for providing this really wonderful overview and your great insights. And I also wanted to thank Sophie Rhodes from Foursquare ITP for compiling our slides and driving the slides in the background. Again, we'll have the presentation available on our website, commuterchoicemaryland.com, in the very near future. So I hope everybody has a great afternoon and wonderful rest of the month. And we'll see you on the next webinar.
Excellent. Thank you all.